Hi, all. We are live with the Football Amigos, bringing you the best discussions, interviews, and reactions to your favorite teams. Today, we have the wonderful and always positive Sam, repping Liverpool. Hi, Sam. Yeah, we
Yes,
have
sir.
a awesome. We have a resident fine guy. I just made that nickname today, and he's always got the tactical edge, and he's repping Man United. Let's say hi to Mide.
Hello, amigos.
Hey,
Good evening,
Mide.
guys. Good to have you
Hi.
back.
And that's me, Ayo, representing Arsenal as always, till I die. But we're really happy to
Mhm.
have a guest with us today. He also supports Man United, and his name
Drum
is
roll,
AJ.
drum roll.
Hi, AJ.
Hello,
How you
hello
doing?
everyone. Thank you for having me.
Great. Yeah, we're excited to have you. We're looking to hear from you. We know you support Man United, and so we're looking to hear what you have to offer and what Mide has to offer, and we hope it's all positive and daffodils and sunshine and just a celebratory and just excited and optimistic vibe throughout this next 30 minutes.
Well done with the sarcasm, Ayo. Well done with the sarcasm.
One can hope. One can hope. Well, today our topic is Man United. Uh, my title is we need to talk about Man United, kind of like we need to talk about Kevin. Man United is not necessarily a killer, but their behavior is definitely sociopathic. But we just want to talk about the current state of things. We want to discuss their performance both this season and prior to this season, and we just want to speculate on what the future holds. And as always, thanks for joining us today, amigos. We couldn't be doing any. We know you could be doing anything else with your time, but the fact that you're here with us, listening and enjoying this conversation, makes us feel really grateful, and we thank you for spending your time with us. So enjoy the show, and please, if you enjoy this content, remember to like and subscribe, as that helps us a lot with the algorithm. Also, feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear your thoughts, and we would like to engage. And thank you for being with us. So, before any further ado, let's get into the show. Midday and AJ, I know we're going to be talking about Man United today, but we're all fans. And we do this not because we like drama, not because we want to hate, but because we have a deep love for these clubs that we talk about. With Sam, it's Liverpool. With me, myself, it's Arsenal. And for you guys, it's Man United. And I was hoping before we start, you just, give us some insight. What was the moment? What was the player, the season, the event that made you like Man United, but also be like, this is a team. I'm not going to support a different team for the rest of my life, which is the commitment we have. So what is it that draws you to Man United and keeps you in that camp even today? Do you want to start with Mide and AJ can go after?
Sure, absolutely. Amigos, I'll take you back in time. Me, 6 years old, Saturday morning, dad runs into my room and wakes me up. Son, Manchester United's playing. Just random. And he pulled me off the bed. I was scratching my eyes, stumbling over. He literally picked me up and took me in front of the TV. And we sat there for 90 minutes. And he just explained what Manchester United was to me. A lot of the things he said, I couldn't really remember. But something he mentioned was about the coach, the culture, the history of that team. And I just fell in love with them. The way they ran down the wings, because I've always liked being quick and fast. And I eventually found out what wingers meant. And it was a game where Beckham was playing, of course, as always, Beckham and Giggs on the wings. And I just fell in love with them. That was the only team that came to mind. I had heard about Celtic before. I have heard about Rangers and the old firm derby from a Scotland standpoint in the Scottish League. Of course, I've heard about Real Madrid, Barcelona, but for me, Manchester United took me by surprise because my dad was interested in it. He was very particular about this team. And for me to be dragged from the bed at 6 years old in the morning to go watch them, I just and loved what I saw. I believe they won 4-1 that day, and one of the goals was a free kick from Beckham, and I just fell in love with them. And of course, as I got older, I started to research them more. Of course, the treble winning team, and just how they played the game made me just go outside and pass around with my dad, which we eventually did after that game. We went outside and just started passing the ball to each other. He was teaching me different things. And by the way, he was a professional tennis player back in Nigeria for a while, but he loved the game soccer, So it was one of those things where for me to see him love another game so much was very interesting.
Hmm.
And the rest is history, I would say.
That's cool. That's cool. Thanks for sharing with us. So the way I understand it's all about family, it's all about tradition, it's all about heritage, which is something we will come back to later. AJ, what's your story supporting Man United? How did you come to
Uh,
love this club?
so for me, young kid, as a young kid, I didn't watch cartoons. I always wanted to watch football. That's all I liked was football, football, football. My parents said I was a weird kid because I just wanted to watch football. I didn't care who was playing or what. Just put football on for me. So I used to watch football, started to get into it as a player, and then I fell in love with Ruben Nistelrooy because I was a striker and he could finish, and that's what I like to do is finish. So Ruben Nistelrooy was my first player that I liked, and then once I started getting older and understanding the game more, Rooney started to come, and then he turned into the ultimate favorite player of mine, which is still one of my favorite players to this day. But um, then we started to get wingers, like Mide said, we like to wing play, beat people down the line, and CR7 came, but he wasn't my favorite. Nani was my favorite, which is different because he's the same type of player, but I liked him a little better. And I changed my number to 17 when I was playing. I wanted to be Nani. I got the mohawk and all that stuff, and that was me.
Dude,
So
you got to
um,
share a picture afterwards. Yeah, we'll post it. We'll put it in the corner
I'm
over
sure I
there.
have something. I'm sure I have
Yeah.
something. But yeah, for me it was Nani that really made me fall in love. And being from Bermuda at the time, United was winning everything, so that's all they showed on TV. So that's all I knew at that point was Man United. And it's funny because my dad's a Liverpool fan, so he didn't force me to be a Liverpool supporter, but he allowed me to choose my own team. And we have rivalries today to this day, little fun bets. Are you going to beat me? Am I going to beat you? But, it's all love. I love Man United. He loves Liverpool. So that's how it started for me.
And
Yeah. It's
secret
great.
and secret revelation, amigos. I have played with AJ before, and he's a baller. He's a very good player. He really is, and I could see with the teams he coaches as well. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
Nice. I
Just
look forward
just
to
just as
playing
a
with him.
guess, does he like evoke like memories of a certain nanny type player? Yeah. Mm.
It's a combination of imagine Nani and Rooney put together in one player. Like he
Uh,
and a little bit of he's very technical. Like he dribbles, but he's very technical with the ball. And he thinks two steps ahead of everyone else when he runs. It's incredible. I mean, I saw him play this past summer, and I was just like, now I see why your teams play so well because he's really good. He's really good.
hopefully, before we start, let's just talk about the history of this club. I tried to do a quick recap about the team, and so we know that the team was established 146 years ago in 1987, 18, sorry, 78. It's got a wonderful, rich, and storied history, and we know even given what Man City are doing today, they don't even come close to being the most successful team in the Premier League era. That is Man United. They won 13 Premier League trophies. This is a league that started in 1992, so it's just going 36 years, and Man United have won 13 of those trophies, which is remarkable, seeing as the last time they won a trophy was in 2013 under Sir Alex Ferguson, and it's impossible to talk about Man United without talking about Sir Alex. He was the manager from 1986 till 2013. He won the inaugural title for the Premier League. And for at least over a decade, they seemed unstoppable. So, we're moving on from all of that. We're moving on from the treble of 1998, 1999, the first team ever to do this. And we're going to today, where we have a Man United that finished last season under Ten Hag, 31 points off the summit. And they actually had their lowest point tally in over 30 years. And so, before we talk about how they got here, one thing I wanted to say was that there were some bright lights. We have in 2016 and 2017 under Mourinho, you guys won the League Cup, you guys won the Europa Cup, which was a great achievement. That's how you got into the Champions League. And a season afterwards, you came in second place with the largest tally of points since Ferguson with 81 points. Also, I know you might not want me to mention that, but under Ten Hag, you've won two additional trophies since Alex and Jose, and you guys won a trophy in each of his seasons. And so, he's one of the most successful coaches you've ever had, at least the third most successful coach you've ever had, which I know it's obviously skewed with Sir Alex. So, we find ourselves here, and I wanted to go over an exercise. I support Arsenal. Whenever Arteta came in, he spoke about five facets of a club. The first one was training and innovation. The second one was tactics and squad building. The third one was club hierarchy and structure. The fourth one was just general culture. And the fifth was vision. And so I wanted to put this question to you guys, and maybe Sam too, if you don't mind. And we'll keep this very brief. We'll go on the first one, training and innovation. What would you rate Man United's performance over ever since the last year with Sir Alex till now? Can you give me a score between 0 and 5 in terms of performances? And then give me a short reason why you picked that number. So let's go with MIDE. So 0 to 5, how would you rate Man United's commitment to training and innovation?
I would say two after Sir Ferguson, to be honest. It hasn't improved. It's fluctuates between 2 and 3. And the reason why I say that is because the culture changed when Alex Ferguson left. And when you have multiple coaches that have very different mentality and styles of play, and they recruit certain players that quote unquote may fit that style of play, you get a hodgepodge of players that one don't match the system the club wants to be. Rather, it's based on the
Sorry,
coaches, and then you have.
sorry, MIDE.
Go ahead.
I think I might have explained it clear. When they say training, because we'll talk about tactics and squad building in the next part. I think what they're
Mhm.
actually getting at is more like infrastructure. So
Oh,
facilities and innovation. I think it is more
facilities. Oh,
is clear in terms of where Man United are now compared to when he left. Mm.
I would say 3 still. I know recently
Okay.
they've tried to upgrade Carrington, and they're trying to make it a world class facility, mirroring the Etihad that they have for Man City. But it's one of those where it came not necessarily as a vision, but as a necessity. You go back to Cristiano Ronaldo giving an interview and saying the facilities were not up to par. And obviously, we watch games where the roof is leaking and some of the old sides in Carrington, it hasn't improved. But because of that, trying to change their club image, they have tried to put some investment into Carrington, the training facility, and it has improved. I mean, they released some presentations before the beginning of the season where I was actually very impressed with the facilities they now have, and they're still working on other wings of the Carrington facility. So I would give it a 3 right now. We'll see what happens.
That's awesome. Thanks, Mayday. AJ, do you got anything to add to that? Speaking as
I
from
think
from an insider perspective as a Man United fan. Yeah.
I'll give it a 2. I think Mide touched on the facility part as it being necessity and not an upgrade. I think we missed out. You had Man City come in, you had Leicester come in, all these clubs come in and build these massive training grounds and upgrade their facilities, and we're supposed to be the best of the best, and we got left behind when these clubs came in and did that. But I think it was like me, they said it should have been an upgrade way back in 2015, 2016, instead of hey, we need it now because Ronaldo came back and said it's not up to par. So
That was an interview. That was, yeah. He kind of he did the Eminem thing. He was cleaning out the closet. Yeah. I said I'm sorry, ban you. Yeah. On average, I see a 2 to 3. Uh, I personally would rate it much lower. I think that recent progress can't paper over the cracks of a 10-year decline, really. One thing I was listening to is an interview with Arteta. He was talking about little margins and little gains. You look for those wherever you can. And one thing that uh, Ronaldo mentioned was nutrition. And we know how important, like in nutrition, is so important in athlete performance. Liverpool are actually the poster boy or the trailblazer in how they've refined nutrition and how improve their player performance. And you would expect that things like this should be part and parcel to how Man United operates. But, it is what it is. If we talk about tactics and squad buildings, and we can probably leave tactics out because we've had so many coaches under a lot of trials. Ole Solskjaer, Van Gaal, Ragnick, and so we can say that because of the change, we can't really see a clear tactical structure. But what can you say in terms of the squad building? So how do you rate Man United's investment in their playing squad over the last 10 years? Would you rate it from as low as 0 or as high as 5, and why? MIDE.
It's a very interesting question because it, I'm thinking quality versus just splashing money, right? In terms of splashing money, I mean, I'll rate it a 5 because apparently Glazers just keep throwing money at problems instead of thinking about stuff. Quality, 2. Just being honest, quality, 2, because at the end of the day, what I've realized, even from my research, is the scouting actually bring players to the development team and they turn them away. A perfect example was Alan Harland. Solskjaer wanted him in that club, but for some reason the scouts did their role. They presented the scouting reports. The development team said no because again we didn't have a technical director. We didn't have a footballing director that actually knew what the vision or style of play should be at the club. That's what happens when hierarchy are not in place to take care of footballing situations and all they're focused on is commercial situations. So I would rate it a 2.
AJ?
I'm going with a 0 because, and here's why. I'll compare it to Sir Alex's tenure and to the last few years. But in my opinion, I think in Sir Alex's era, we had players and squad depth, and players knew their role. And you had players like John O'Shea, Wes Brown, Carrick, and then you had your superstars like Scholes, Beckham, Ronaldo. But everyone knew their place and knew their role. You look at today's team, I'll go specifically today, but we sold Wan-Bissaka, we sold McTominay, we sold these players, and last year we were crying for death. And we went and sold these players, and had we added on and kept a few of these guys, I think we would have been a better situation because the injuries don't help, but also I think players don't feel like they have any competition. So we have two right backs playing. No one's coming in for Dallo right now, so he doesn't necessarily feel like he has to play up to par because he plays every week. And then we have injuries with Mainu out, Mount out, Casemiro and Ericsson start every game. So I just think recruitment has been horrible since Sir Alex left, and I think like back to the facilities thing, they the hierarchy came as a necessity instead of an upgrade. football changed and we didn't change with the time. So now we're reacting to everyone else changing around us, and we're probably 7 to 10 years too late on that. So we're playing catch up.
Yeah, that's harsh, but very clear and concise. Thanks, AJ. Sam, can you give me a number? We'll probably skip the explanation for this, but what do you think you'd rate their squad building over the past decade? 0 to 5.
Man, I'm gonna go with my man AJ over there. 0-2. And I'll just keep it short. Not just buying, like Mide said, yes, give them 5/5 in terms of buying. But where are the youth? How many youths have we seen lately that could easily start lining up to take over someday? Yeah, Maino is there. How many youths have we heard from Man United in the last 10 years? Come on. Um, that's just my thoughts. We need to start building and getting guys to be ready to be replaced and let the hunger be in the team. I don't like bringing my team Liverpool into conversations like this, but you see that a lot. Although they may not play for a long time before we get rid of them, but these youths are coming in and they're being strong backup. They're competing for positions. Alexander's position is being competed for by Bradley. So I'm gonna keep it short.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. I won't tell you my score, but it's closer to AJ. There might be a little bit of overlap. I think Man United's problem has always been they've always had 6 to 7 players for each tactical structure perpetually. Whereas, like, whatever style they're trying to implement is always like 2 or 3 players short, no matter how big the squad is. And I think that has to stand for something. The the third thing I was going to ask is because we were talking about we were reading a newspaper about Sir Alex being his contract being terminated and his position there. And so I was going to ask you in terms of the evolution of their club hierarchy and structure, in terms of translating that to how a modern game works, how would you rate Man United's transition over the decade, all things considering? 0 to 5. And we can be probably brief because we're only getting into the meat of discussing, which is this season. So we can just go fast if you can. Yeah. MIDE, sorry. Can you go first? Yeah.
I was brainstorming something else you mentioned there and missed the question. Can you repeat it?
Oh, I was just saying, how would you, in terms of the evolution of their club structure? So think about multi-club ownership. Think about the academy to club pipeline. Think about moving away from managers and actually just getting coaches and changing the hierarchy to reflect that, where the coaches now focus on specifically on pitch matters, and everything else is every other responsibility is meted out to other stakeholders. So I was going to ask, how do you feel about how quickly or how effectively Man United has navigated that evolution in club structure? And just keep it brief. Just give me a number so we can move on and talk about Mr. Hag. Yeah.
There hasn't been enough time to really give a definitive number, but if I have to say right now, it would be a 1 at this point. And I say 1 because when you make these decisions, you need time to see the results. And that result isn't looking good right now. In terms of organizational structure, I think they've done well. But if I have to rate things, it would have to be results. And right now, we are 14th on the table. They've only had about 6 weeks. I'll give them a 1.
Yeah, MIDE, I'm talking in the long run. I'm not talking about like recently with Ineos, or specifically only with Ineos. I mean over the course of the transition.
Over the course of
We
the
do know
transition,
that-
it's still 1. It's still 1. It's still 1. It's still 1. Again, they are reacting like what AJ said. They are reacting to what's going on around them. There's no proactive thinking. There's no proactive vision. They've had to change most of the board of directors to try to do this after the failings since Alex Ferguson. So I will give them a 1. Just because I like them, I'll give them a 1.
Participation trophy. AJ, would you agree with his assessment? Will you give that a 1?
I'll give it a one. I just think the Glazers have overstayed their tenure a little bit too long, so that doesn't help. You know that they weren't willing to sell, so that was also in the way of us getting new people in and finding the right structure. So, like Mide said, we're reacting, and I think I'll give it a one.
That's awesome. All right, just for the next two, I'll just get a number from you guys. Culture. Culture is everything. It's how it transmits from. I mean, it transmits from the club, but it's also informed by the fans, informed by the relationship with the fans. It is informed by the player, the standards, the culture. I mean, as a way of life, how is it a strong culture?
It would always be. It would always be a strong culture in terms of how effective it is. That's another question. But Man United will always be a strong culture, no matter how bad we might be, no matter how bad managers that we employ are, no matter how bad the recruitment is. The United fans will always stand by their club, and I will keep it at a five. No matter how bad things get, we will still support them.
Yeah. I will say though, and I think we might be miscommunicating. I think there's a difference between history and culture. I think Man United has a ironclad, what's it called, history, but I think the culture has become very toxic and fragile. Personally speaking, from the outside, like if I was going to rate the strength of a culture, I'd rate it very, very low. I mean, the strength of a history, I'd rate it high. If that makes any sense.
It does. Sometimes people might make that assumption because of social media and the pundits, and there's also a British bias against United, and will always be one. They're different. Yes, there will always be one. Always, always, always. I don't never ignored. There would always be one. But at the end of the day, we, yeah. Go ahead.
No.
Yes, I mean, just saying. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest. That's the truth. Anyways, at
I
the end of
think
the
every
day,
team can say that about your team. So it's fair for you guys to vote.
Definitely not Man United. In fact, I actually come and see why that's a double-edged sword. But AJ, can I get a number for that? Yeah, so we can move on.
I think it's a one. I don't think it's a happy place to be right now. I don't think people want to be in Manchester United. Doesn't look very healthy. Looks toxic in my opinion.
Okay, Sam.
Absolutely, I'll do a one as well. Especially when you look at the things that are going on with players like Sancho, Ronaldo's fallout. It's just not encouraging. If you put it on the stock market, nobody want to buy the stock. You know.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, now that we've talked about how we got here, let's talk about where we are. Uh, you know, we all know what happened last season. Ten Hag, he finished with almost 60 points, lowest tally in 30 years. We understand uh, that throughout the season, we had Ineos come in, change the structure. They bought players, but still their start has been difficult. We know they've played, especially before the first and second international breaks, they played more difficult fixtures. But even after returning, their performance has still been considered weak. And so I'm going to be like, we discuss, like Ten Hag, is he a positive or is he a negative? Like, what do you feel about his leadership? Does it fill you with concern or optimism? And can you expand on that point, but slightly, but in briefly, in like a minute, midday? Optimism or concern?
concern, and I think it stems back to how he's handled different situations. There's been a lot of situations he has had to handle, and some of it he's handled well, but it's few as opposed to the ones he hasn't handled well.
Can you
The
give me
Sancho
one example about what he has handled well and one example is what he hasn't handled well? Just one example.
One example, good, bringing in young players. He's given a lot of young players opportunity to join the squad. I'll give him that. We wouldn't know about Maino if he didn't, right? We wouldn't know about some of the other ones that are coming in, that we've seen, even in terms of recruitment as well. What he didn't do well, I still think the whole favoritism with Anthony, he shows this every single time. He has his favorites. And as a coach, I don't do favorites. I do players that perform consistently. That's completely different from favoritism. But favoritism is what happens when you have a player that keeps playing every time and they don't play well, and you have other players that are not given the opportunity to play. That's favoritism. That's an example of him not handling things well.
Okay. So you're saying on the positive side, he's introducing young players into the squad and bedding them in, which is keeping in with the culture, with the history, culture, I guess the values of Man United. On the on the negative side, you think he's paying too much deference to his what do you call it, teacher's pets like Anthony,
Yes,
at the
favoritism.
detriment of the squad. Okay, AJ, do you are you filled with optimism or pessimism? And is there one example into like Tenag is doing this well? One example as to he's doing it bad. I keep it 1 to 1. I know you can go several the other
Yeah.
direction. Yeah.
For me, it's a bit of both, to be honest. Like today, I was filled with optimism in the first 30 minutes, and then it transferred into the second half, and it went horrible. So, I think his bad thing is his on-field decisions and substitutions. Sometimes they don't make sense, and I think he struggles at making the right decisions in game. But one thing I think he's dealt with good is it's the media pressure. I think he handles himself well, because Man United comes with a lot of pressure, and he doesn't hide from it. But I think he's dealing with it in the right way to a certain degree. Like the Sancho situation is different. I think he dealt with that horrible, but I think as far as his performances and somewhat backing his players on the field, he deals with that side pretty well. But yeah.
I'm enjoying your perspective. It's kind of funny because we have a consensus. We talked about this a few weeks ago, and we were like, maybe we're just like an echo chamber because we had a different perspective. But I do understand that he has had to write a lot of challenges, and for him to be where he is, that does
Hmm.
take a lot of positives in terms of how he responded to scrutiny. Sam, pessimistic, optimistic. One good example of what he's done right, and one example of what he's done wrong. Yeah.
I probably don't have anything that is done right, respectfully. Um, it gives me a
Not even
lot of
media, not
concern.
even
No,
playing
I
young
have to
players.
say, just to kind of allude to what AJ said, yes, there's been that, pressure. I've always said it's too cool for the media, even for the players, always positive, always finding it hard to critique the player and their game. He's always like quote unquote bad day at the office. If you look at it somewhat, positive for the team, you don't want to add too much flair to the fire that's already kind of brewing for Man United. But I see a lot more negative and I see a lot more concern. How much low can we get as a Man United fan? I say that as a Man United fan because you all know my second team in the Premier League is Man United. I have picture of me being a kid with jersey with and all kind of stuff as a Man United guy.
Guys,
So
them early Liverpool years were very hard.
my goodness.
Sammy, there's something to tide him over. Sorry, carry on, Sam.
All right, let me wrap this up, man. Let me wrap. But he's done. I don't think he's done well when it comes to letting player go. I don't think anybody want to play for him. To be honest, players like Wan-Bissaka shouldn't be gone. There's a way you can talk to the ownership if they're the one pushing for players like that to be gone. As a matter of fact, I think McTominay should still be on Man United, and as much that he's not the most. I won't put my $100 million on him, right? As a matter of fact, the higher should still be in Man United. To be honest, he was probably frustrated. He had the greatest season. He was the most improved player the season before he left. Why? What happened? How did we just let that? I think the coach can step in and those situations and say, okay, this is what we got to do. This is what we got. I don't see him being that guy in the back office. So it gives me a lot of concern, especially with the current result that we're seeing. I also don't like that he's too rigid with changes, game plan, whatever he had before they show up on the pitch in the first minute. It's almost impossible to see him change. In the last few games, I've seen a lot of change. First half is different from second half. I see that. I'll give that to him. But most of his downfall came from the fact that he has some players that he want to play. Anthony, like MIDE said, he has all of these things. They just stick with it. Most coaches, look at Ateta, they change the game. They change what they like rapidly. You know, it's hard to talk about Ten Egg and not get too personal. So I'll leave it as that.
Well, yeah. From my perspective, it's very, very hard to gauge Ten Hag because it's you almost need a control to gauge, and he's not taking Man United in a controlled time or a controlled space. It's been super chaotic since he started. I will like to add, he is your third most successful manager in the Premier League era. Before we talk about positive and negatives, he has won 2 cups. With the last one, the FA Cup, with the demolition of Man City in the final, being the most impressive, and getting
I
him
don't know
back
about demolition.
into
I think
into European
I don't know about
competition.
demolition.
It was a masterclass of technical astuteness. It was togetherness. The players were all bought in. Okay, I give up. But but I think it is hard right now because there is so much scrutiny. And I think, and this is why I was coming back to the media thing. I think I was thinking about Man United. Have you ever seen the Overlook show by Sky? Have you ever seen that? They host it, and this is where it's like a open table talk, and it's led by Gary Neville. And I watched an episode, and he had what's his name? King. He had I think Carragher was here. I'm not sure, but he had Ole Solskjaer, and they were talking about the Premier League. You go watch Sky's punditry. It's all like former Man United players. Ferdinand is there.
Yeah.
Solskjaer was talking about when they bought Man United, when they bought back Ronaldo, and how like it was so many players were texting him to like get him that he can't go to Man City and he must be in Man United, and that's why they made a deal to bring him because they're going to let him go to Man City initially. And as much as I enjoyed the insight, after a while I was like, I don't think this is good. It's like, how often do you hear about the inner workings of Man City? How often do you hear about the inner workings of Liverpool, FSG? How often do you hear about the inner workings at Arsenal? And I think there is a looseness in terms of how information is controlled within Man United that brings the scrutiny. Like, how much do you think they're like having former players in the love media punditry that brings attention to Man United? How much having not being able to have a tight ship? How much do you think this is swaying public perception and creating a pressure that wouldn't otherwise be there if they could control the narrative better and keep things in house? AJ, do you want to go 1st? Mm-hmm.
I think it's horrible because, in my opinion, like you look at team news getting leaked hours before kickoff and what that can do for another team. If they know who's playing 3 hours before the game, they're able to change or, put in a little bit of information. So I think all the extra outside noise and is horrible, but like we talked about earlier, the new ownership has come in and got rid of a lot of people. They've cleaned up a lot of people. I mean, even Sir Alex Ferguson, I don't think that's right, but they felt like they had to cut some money back from him. So I think it's not good for us. Like you said, everyone else seems to run a tight ship. I don't hear much about Arsenal. I don't hear much about Man City. I don't hear much about Liverpool in terms of what's going on in the inside. It's all kept pretty quiet, but as big as Man United is in their history, there has to be someone they have to talk about every week. So I understand why they try to get it out of Manchester United, because everyone but Man United fans want to see them fall, and everyone else is enjoying it but us. So, hopefully they get it together, but it's not good for us as a club.
Thanks, AJ. So another question I had was, do you think Ten Hag, right? So we are where we are, right? We think Ineos has done a great job so far. We're trying to see where it goes. Do you think if they find better players, so they find another Lenny Euro that doesn't get injured, find another like just the talent and keep just bringing the squad, like I think it's going to be a slow overhaul. Do you think you have confidence in Ten Hag is a person to give the reins of this transformation? Would you think so, Mide?
No, no, and that's just putting it lightly. No, there's a gap in his coaching repertoire where he only buys players that he's used before. If you look at a lot of our transfer window for the past 3 years, I don't mind if they're all Dutch, but
Mhm.
he's players that he's used mostly at Ajax. And as a coach, you need to be able to diversify the players you want to play, not necessarily based on their nationality, but based on their ability to execute your system. We always talked about system on Amigo show. Like, share, and subscribe, amigos. Look at our past videos where we talked about tactics and Manchester United. As a coach, you need to have players that can execute your system to the best of their ability and then build players around them, regardless of their nationality, but only mostly focus on the ability and their mentality as well.
That's fair. AJ, do you have anything to add to that?
For me, the biggest thing that I would say is that the first year of Ten Hag was promising. I think we were playing a pretty decent style of football. We were, we were conceding a lot of goals, but in his first year, he had to get rid of some of those players that were there. And I think going into his second year, he changed a lot. He wanted to be a quick transition team, trying to get from back to front quick as possible. And I don't think we had the players for that. I think if he would have stuck with his first year system, I think we would have been better off. I know we tried to get Frankie De Jong for 6 months and we didn't get him, but you, there's other players out there that can do that job. And I hate to say this, but that's why I admire Mikel Arteta, because if you go back to his first few years, the Arsenal fans wanted him gone because but he stuck with it and he stayed behind his principles. And now look, he stuck to it, brought the players in that fit his system, and they're unstoppable. And it's sad to see, because I think if Ten Hag would have stuck with what he knew and what he was comfortable with and his ways, we would have been a different team. But he's changed, and I don't like it. And I was talking to Mide. He was asking if he thinks getting fired. I think Tuchel was our number one option, and I think Tuchel talked to England in the summertime. That's why he turned us down. And now with him being the England manager, I think that's why he didn't come. So that's why we're stuck with Ten Hag, in my opinion. So you know,
I will say with Arsenal, and thanks for that, AJ. I'll say it was more about AFTV and the people who were doing all of that. And it's kind of like what's happening with Man United right now is controversy gets clicks, and so a lot of the
hmm
media discourse around that. But I think the underlying understanding what he was doing was clear to the majority of the fans, and we had patience. And also, a big part of his struggle initially and our struggle was actually more of a power vacuum between the Kronkes in America and
yeah,
Usmanov in Russia. And they weren't willing to invest in the team until one of them won. and that's when that happened. That's when you just started to see the transition and the investment. We spent a lot of money, but
Yeah.
hopefully well. And I will say with Ten Hag, uh, do you think all the talk about whether or not he was going to keep his job at the end of last season, do you think that undermined him in the eyes of the media, in the eyes of the fans, and in the what's it called, eyes of the players this season, uh, setting him up for failure, or do you think he would have been here anyway? Because there was a lot of talk about his tenure even from the first game, and that's because of the kind of discussions Ineos were having last season. And so, do you think that was a poor misstep by them, or is this just where we would always have been? AJ, do you want to take that first?
I think it was a poor step. I think they were overconfident that they could have got Tuchel, and it backfired on them. And I don't think there was any other coaches out there right now that can take this position. So it did undermine Ten Hag, and I don't think, like we said earlier, I don't think players want to play for him because at the end of the day, if my club's talking to coaches, then you don't want him either. So why should we play for him, and why should we respect him if you want to get rid of him? But I think they went the wrong way about it, and we talked about how news gets out of our club. It's always in the news, whether it's true or not. But the media made it a big thing that we were talking to Tuchel, and I think that really hurt his
Standard.
not ego, yeah, hurt not his ego, but it hurt his ability to coach a team that's willing to play for him. And I think the results on the field have shown that this year. So
Okay. And then the last question I have for you guys before we work down was I was looking at Alex Ferguson. I was looking at a lot of his records, and one thing that struck me was how much at the beginning of the Premier League it was a two-horse race, and slowly but surely we had Chelsea with Abramovich. We had Liverpool coming into their own, Man City coming into their own, massive investment into Tottenham, massive investment into Newcastle, wonderful models in Brighton, I guess Leicester briefly. And you start to work down that list, and before you even start talking about winning, you're like sixth or seventh position. And so I was like, how much of this struggle is due to how competitive the Premier League has become? Like, do you? Because I'm not 100% sure that Alex could have been this successful under these conditions because we have a machine. Like I don't know how to explain it other than say it's a machine in Man City. We have Liverpool that are doing some amazing things. We have what Chelsea is. Remember, because back in the day, even though Man United were winning, they had the best scouting. They had the best, what's it called, recruitment. Everybody wanted to go to Man United, so they were the first choice, and they were able to buy any player they deemed necessary on top of the players they raised. Like think of Van Nistelrooy, not Van Nistelrooy. Oh my God, Arsenal striker. You guys bought in the last season, the last Premier League.
Van
I keep
Persie.
forgetting.
Van Persie.
Van Persie, sorry. In that last season where it's like, things are looking shaky, you buy a 30 goal a season, what's it called, striker, and you win the Premier League. And then you look at now, like, should Ten Hag receive some grace because of the competitive environment that we find ourselves in the Premier League? With that side mid, you want to go first?
It's a very tough place to be, and I think the ship has sailed in terms of grace at this point in time. I feel like it's if there was grace, it should have been consistent in the beginning of the season, right? But from where we start, how we started, and from where we are now, and again, injuries are not an excuse. I'm sorry, they're just not. That's why you should have a squad. Or if you don't have a squad, rely on players that can actually play your system. It's just, it's ship sailed, just personally.
That's fair. Well, we've gone so far of our time. I'd love to talk more about this, and if you guys have time, we can stay on it. But for that, it was just wonderful to get your perspective on the state of the club. I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day. We can't solve all of Man United's problems in a day. We can't even discuss all of Man United's problems in a day. But it was great to have your perspective and where we are. We're hopeful. It's a great institution, so we're hopeful to see them in more positive places in the future. And yeah, but most importantly, thank you, AJ, for joining us. We've absolutely appreciated your insight. Hopefully, we can have you another time to discuss Man United. Hopefully, on better performances. We can be turning a corner. You never know. They beat everybody from now till the end of the Premier League. They win the trophy. They do the treble. They do the sextuple, and all is well.
I,
Yeah.
I will say this: Ten Hag does find a way to win something, and that's what's kept him in this job for so long. So
I agree.
don't count us out. But as far as the league goes, I'll count us out there. But FA Cup, other stuff like that, don't count us out yet.
Hey, for what is what, that is winning something. There's a club, they were runner up twice in the last 2 years. They didn't win anything in terms of trophies. So
Love the banter, Sam. Love
winning
the
a
banter.
silver is better than participation certification. Ah, you know what club I'm talking about? Your eyes lit up.
No, I think you're talking about Arsenal, but I'm such a confident player, so it doesn't affect me. I saw you guys struggling against like a fake back four or B option, so I'm super
Hey, we'll
confident.
talk about that in the next show. But I have a question for the two coaches. So before they leave us, we've all agreed that Ten Hag's time is up. What would you change in Man United as of today to get Man United away from below eight position? You know what I'm saying? And Aya talked about culture and all of those things. But what would you guys change as a coach? As coaches, what would you change?
AJ, I'll let you take a shot on this one first.
All right. For me, and I think this might be to Coach Mide's point, but it will be the mindset. For me, I think the mindset of Manchester United isn't about winning right now. It's just about I want to play for Man United, instead of I want to win for Man United. And I think that's, where we're at. And we look at those glory days that we had. Every player in that dressing room wanted to win. That was their main goal, win by any means necessary. Today, I think it's just people coming to play because to say I play for Manchester United and that's it. Playing, saying they were able to play for Man United. So I think the mindset needs to change, and we need to get some winners into that team. So that's the biggest thing for me.
AJ, I'll ask you a question. One of my favorite phrases is to grab the future, you have to let go of the past. How much of Man United's present struggles is as a result of not being able to let go? Like you see Alex Ferguson, 26 years on like well, sorry, not 26 years, but how many years he was earning that 2 million as a brand ambassador. You see how everyone talks about the past, the past, the past. How much of today's struggle is not being able to let go
I
and
think
build
a lot.
something new?
I think that touches on to the point about it being a mindset thing. Everyone's so worried about the past. Why not come in there with the mindset that, Man United hasn't been a club that's won for so long, but why can't I be a person who gets us back on the right track and, let's get this new era of Manchester United going and, let go of the past and let's get back to those winning ways. I say back, but it's the
The,
start of something new. Let's get a new dominant Manchester United era. But
let's say like
I
back
don't.
to basics.
Yeah. So doesn't seem likely if I'm being honest.
Yeah, very
Made
good
anything,
thoughts,
man.
AJ. Mize, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, especially with what Ayo added to that. Are we are we dwelling too much on the past and facing the reality that okay, teams that are stepping up in the Premier League, there's literally about top seven. We should be talking about top eight now when you think about Aston Villa, Brighton, and you include all the Tottenhams and all of that. Teams have stepped up, teams have changed. Um, and these teams don't have a history like Man United, of course, and they're doing well. So, from your perspective, from as a coach, what would you change? And should we be thinking about the past? You know, the glory boys are the ones in the media now. If you guys like it or not, they're the one causing chaos in the media. So, well, talk to us about that real quick.
As a coach, I will need to coach these players to try to get closer to the box more often and take more shots. We have a problem right now. We are not scoring goals, and we have goal scorers. We're not scoring goals. Again, today was I was very happy with the first half of today. Imagine them playing like that every game. I think the goals will come, but I would try to put them in a formation that gets them
A-
goals.
AJ
That's
shaking his
my-
head in the day. Yeah.
yeah, that again, that's the problem. And yes, we are still dwelling on the past, and we need to move on from that. I think the past is in the past. We can reminisce on the past, but what's in front of you is what counts. If you don't take hold of what's in front of you, you'll be left behind. You can't keep, this is something that I'm trying to get to coach to certain of my teams. You can't just sulk about what just happened. You need to improve on what you've experienced to be able to get better, and it comes with mentality.
So there's a problem with the mentality, and that's the first thing that needs to change for progress.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think I agree. I agree. It's the hardest, but because how do you make that stick? But it does make sense that that has to go. Yeah. Uh, do you want to take us out, Sam?
Absolutely, gentlemen. I really, really like your perspectives. AJ, definitely, I like the way you're thinking. For the two amigos, you all don't know. AJ is kind of leaning towards my thoughts of United, but you guys have to go. You two specifically, and the amigos online. Y'all got to listen to all these shows. He talked about mindset. He talked about winning spirit. Folks just want to put on Man United jersey. They don't want to win with a team. These are things that I've talked about in the past, right? But Amigo Show is in a better position today because of your presence, AJ. And midday, it's really good to see your perspective uh, when it comes to the club itself and just the game, other than you being an outstanding host. Thank you guys so much. Ayo, I really like your thoughts provoking question and taking us to the past. And hopefully, we can drill more about the future as we go down the line. Maybe it will be Ten Hag, maybe not. We'll see what happens in December. I feel like a lot of things happen. Winter comes in December, indeed. But guys, I really, really appreciate you guys. Really, the AJ, any last thoughts, for us before we close this out?
Did you have a great
Uh,
time? Yeah.
it was great. It's my first time doing something like this, so stepping out my comfort zone. But I said I'm a football guy. Once I start talking football, I can talk all day. So I felt pretty comfortable. But I appreciate you guys letting me on the show, and yeah, thanks. Hopefully, I can come back again and talk
Oh, we're
about some
going.
other stuff.
Yeah, yes, sir. We're gonna bring you back with the 90 more,
Definitely.
man. We gotta
Yeah.
sit there. We gotta sit there. All right, midday last thought from you. We'll pass it to Ayo. Ayo, you shut it down. Don't pass it to me again.
Absolutely. No, thank you, amigos, for your time. We really appreciate you. Huge shout out to AJ as our guest, amigos, today. Of course, we'd love to have you back. I feel like the amigos are going to experience another different level of tactical nouns from AJ. And even as a coach, I learn so much from him every time we talk these days. And long may that continue.
All right, Ayo, your
Wonderful.
last thoughts. Don't talk about your Arsenal tie on Sunday.
Till I die. Arsenal, Arsenal forever, whatever the weather.
Oh my
This is
gosh,
my
you
home.
rubbed it in.
I saw you stay second. Wait a second. Arsenal was second in the
At least
last two
we're,
seasons.
at least
Mm,
we're in touching distance. We're in
yeah.
the same postcode. Some people are in different states, different
Hey, we have
nations,
two Man
different
United
Wow.
folks
continents.
online. Hey, take it away, take it away.
Wow.
Stop throwing short now. All right, I
The
said
banter
close
is
this out. You're
real.
causing trouble. All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you, amigos. Thanks for joining us. Please like and subscribe. We love to hear from you, and we'll continue to give you great, insightful, and fun content. Appreciate it. Amigo signing out. Bye. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Thank you,
Yeah.
gentlemen.